Someone commented on here, you think with the extra time they had to wait on the line.
For Rob to talk, do you think that throws somebody
Yeah,
off their
could
game?
that throw them off their game? So here's something that a top-level mental coach will tell you. They'll tell you while that's happening, it's going to be important for you to find some type of a process, a mental rehearsal process, to occupy your time with something. For some people, it's we got Tim Strickland there shooting, one of the all-time leading coaches for Recurve men back in the day. Coach for Rod White, gold medalists, and Butch Johnson, Denise Parker. Pretty cool to see him on a line shooting again. But with that, and actually, that guy right there, Tim Strickland, is the one that taught me exactly what I talked about earlier, learning to let go. Because one of my biggest faults when I first started as in the pro class was I would make a bad shot at a 3D event, and I would literally be so raging mad because as a former football player, if I did something wrong, I was able to just go hit somebody the next play. But on an archery course, I can't really do that. We haven't incorporated the Happy Gilmore rule yet. So, I would be kind of stomping a foot or slamming my stabilizer into the ground. And Tim actually just came to me out of the blue one time, and he's the one that said, if you can just learn to let that arrow go, because there's nothing you can do to get it back. He said, don't let the arrow you've already shot affect the arrows that you haven't.
Yeah.
And I let that soak in, and it completely changed me as a competitor. So thanks, Tim, for that. The guy right there that just shot on the right.
So this is some of the senior open that
yeah,
we have here?
Yeah, we've got senior open. So we've got not the best looking targets right there. Obviously, some of the seniors let some of that pressure get to them a little bit more than the open pro guys. But I think for this mental rehearsal thing that I was talking about, sometimes someone will have something that they go through that just completely occupies their mind during that downtime so that they don't let themselves mentally get off track. For some people it might be having a coin in your pocket and playing with it. And if you look at some of the top level guys, they're not going to tell you that this is what I'm doing, but pay attention to those. If you ever see a pro on the sideline and you see one looking down into his release pouch and flipping through releases just for no reason, or sitting there spinning a phone on his pants, a lot of times that's it's actually part of a process to continually occupy your conscious mind on doing something so that you're actually not letting yourself think about what other people are doing or what's going on in the match. You're pretty much trying to keep your mind 100% focused on what you're doing. So we've got D. Wilde here on the right. He's actually all in black. He is an official archery ninja, so I guess being in black is a pretty appropriate dress for him right now. On our screen, we've got that upper logo kind of covers the top nameplate, which is a little bit of a bummer. But
as I watch these guys shoot, John, and obviously their arrows are not quite as clean as the pros or the top male pros. Do you have a pretty good idea coming into these competitions when you're at this level of competition? What score you're probably going to need, to get, to the top?
Well, I can tell you at a pro level.
Well, you're going to need all 11s at the very top. But, I mean, here you see a few arrows drifting. I saw some arrows drifting, in the women's class. Obviously, as you get down into the bow hunter, the youth classes, you usually have a pretty good idea of what you're going to need to make the finals?
Oh, yeah. I mean, as a rule of thumb, you kind of, at least, like for shooting. Oh, we've got the buzzer, so we're going to head to a commercial here.
12th Annual Lancaster Archery Classic, January 16th through the 18th. Bigger and better, this year's tournament is in a new venue, the Lancaster Host Resort, only minutes away from the Lancaster Archery Showroom. The 80-lane indoor range is brought to you by True Ball XL and has increased space for shooters, spectators, and vendors. Plan on attending the shooter's reception, sponsored by Carbon Express, and compete for over $75,000 in cash prizes, including a guaranteed $10,000 payout for the first place men's Open Pro. We've added 5 new amateur divisions for men and women. Register by January 11th or keep up with the Hoyt live broadcast coverage all weekend long on LancasterArchery.com.
Back at you live here. I'm still waiting for some score updates to my left, but we were talking about what type of scores you kind of have to have in your head, and honestly, one thing that I always made a goal as a pro was each year I tried to just find, there's Brady Ellison's dad, Mel. Mel's a great guy. Obviously has probably one of the top 2 or 3 recurve shooters as the son in the world with Brady Ellison. Brady couldn't be here this weekend. His grandfather's really ill, so he's actually back home with his grandfather. Mel's here with some of his students trying to help him through. But yeah, we as pros each year you're trying to obviously improve your game, but obviously the closer you get to perfection on your game, the less margin you have to improve it. So each year I always tried to do one thing that would help me improve by 1 point, because obviously look what 1 point would have just done for every one of these guys in a head-to-head match.
Can we get the cameras on some of the bare bow guys?
Yeah,
here? I know some folks wanted to see that.
Yeah, let's see if we can get on some of the. We've got the bare bow class down. Targets 29 through 32. Yep. So this will be pretty cool. I've always been impressed by this. When I shot on the U.S. World Field Team, we had 3 bare bow shooters that were on our team, and actually 6. We had the men and the women. But when you go over to Europe, especially in like Sweden and the Finnish, they're among some of the most impressive bare bow shooters you could ever imagine. Those field courses, Christian, are unbelievably challenging. I mean, like something you would just see in a picture. They're that hard, and these guys get so good at their bare bow that they're crazy impressive.
Well, I honestly can say, I've never seen, these guys shoot in competition like this. So I'm just really, really curious to see where these arrows go.
Well, they're going to go in the target.
Yeah, I would hope.
They're
just to see the margin compared to the top.
This guy's holding a long time for a recurve. I mean, that takes a lot of strength to do that. But
how many of these guys do you think are shooting true instinctive versus?
Well, check out those 2 arrows right there.
Reference point.
Look at Partlow. Look at that. Bam, bam. So take that, Christian, with the bare bow.
No, but what I'm saying is,
look at that.
Oh, that was beautiful. That was beautiful.
I almost want to high five you for that, because that was kind of cool to look. We'll high five. We didn't even shoot it.
But I was just asking you though, how many of those guys do you think are truly shooting completely instinctive versus some kind of a reference point on their gear?
None of them.
None of them are using a reference point.
No, none of them are shooting without it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So even though they don't have a sight, they've got some kind of a
absolutely
system.
And see, that's what would be cool if by chance we were able to actually view these guys shoot outside, like on a field course, because that's when their true technique as a barebow shooter really come through, because you start getting to see their systems of their string walking and they literally are counting serving. They're counting each thread of their serving to know how to walk down to be able to pull to their same anchor point and then, shoot at a target at 40 meters versus 20 meters or, these targets with the cut. So it's really neat to watch these guys in their systems. They all have a slightly different system, but, string walking is super, super cool to watch. It's really, really neat.
You could do a
Sarah,
whole
you're
show
welcome.
on that.
Sarah's happy she got to see a little bit of that. So that's awesome. So yeah, a couple guys were asking for that. So we definitely
See that? I knew some people wanted to see it, so I'm probably not that much help to you, but I can remember what the people want, John. Try to help you give it to them.
We are all about the people. And, a lot of times I'm not looking down all the time at this screen, but if some of you guys listening out there have any type of subjects relating to the pros that we're watching right now, feel free to shoot those across. That's why I've got you on the live stream, so that I can answer some of these for you and kind of talk you through, at least from a professional's point of view, what I think's going on in a lot of these guys' heads. We're still here in the seniors. Obviously, these guys right now are not shooting at the level that I know they're capable of. I've seen D shoot some.
Well, let me ask you this, John. You had mentioned, like Strickland is a coach, a very well-respected coach who's had success, at the Olympic and international level.
Yep.
You probably have a lot of guys in the senior category who are coaches.
Absolutely.
And so here's my question, and you do coaching.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Sometimes when you're the coach, they say it's lonely at the top. How often do coaches suffer a little? These guys are still shooting well. It's not like they're embarrassing themselves. But how much is it hard? You're spending all your time. You're pouring. We got 15 seconds here. We'll come back with your answer after this. But you're pouring yourself into everybody else.
Yep.
You're watching. You're getting familiar with all your students and what they need. And
then you have to step to the line and do what I say, not as I do.
So we're going to commercial in 2 seconds. When we get back, you can answer that.
All right. So if it's we're back at you live.
And just before you answer my question, I saw on the feed too, somebody was asking if Rio Wilde had been eliminated because they were saying that the Lancaster website or something had him out.
Right.
That was basically, I guess, on that last arrow, the closest to center.
Yep. So what happens is with the scoring system, obviously it sees that Rio shot one out. It doesn't realize that it actually goes closest to center. So after those shoot-off matches, we're still trying to perfect actually knowing exactly who's in based off the shoot-off matches when it comes down to closest to center. So let's see. What would you? We've got some questions coming in here. Is string walking allowed at the LAS tournament, or are they just shooting gap? I think at a fixed distance, they're really not. They're not. You're probably not going to need to see it very much. They're obviously here at one spot. I don't know if if there's an actual ruling on that, but I don't think that you would see it either way because they're at one distance the whole time. So, and I do think I want to try to get down to a match that is going to be a little bit of a blast from the past for me. I think Cousins is going head-to-head with Rio, and man, I've been in the middle of many of these duos right here. Cousins and Rio are two guys that have battled it out for decades, really, and it's always fun to watch. Extremely competitive between these two guys. There's, they're teammates when they have to be.
What? Let me ask you this, and then we'll circle back to that other question because I think it'll lead into it. How much does coming out here and doing this all weekend, John, make you miss being out there on that line, or doesn't it?
Oh, there's certainly parts of it that I really, really miss. There's certain parts of it that I enjoy, but, it kind of, you can't have your cake and eat it too. I really like, for me, if I was down there right now, there's no way that I would be able to be talking about things that could potentially help other people. So, and the other thing too is, one thing that was really tough for me as a competitor is I always wanted to be super approachable, and I liked really communicating with people and kind of, but when you get into this position right here, you can't necessarily always be the smiley nice guy. You have to have a seriously extreme focus. You can see here Cousins and Rio, they don't even want to be close to one another. Dave's almost mad that he's hearing Rio talk about something. They'll have a little funny communication, but yeah, it'll stay pretty short. You can tell. Dave just took a big swallow right there. He might be. One thing I've noticed with Dave is he actually talks. He talks more when he's got some pressure on him. I know that when Dave and I shot when we first started shooting together, he hardly ever talked to me until all of a sudden I got to the point where I'm in a match with him. And then all of a sudden he's wanting to continually talk to me even though I was trying to focus on my match. And part of that is...
I was going to say, you think he's trying to
absolutely
help himself or knock you off?
Absolutely. It's each of these pros have their own little head games. The master of it all is Ulmer. He was very, very good. He should be a psychologist. He would dig into your head and throw some kind of voodoo in there. So you got to kind of learn to deflect that off.
So here's a little goofy thought as these guys get ready to shoot. You know who these referees are? Do these guys go all around and do the big tournaments?
Oh, yeah.
Is that a big deal, like being a top archery referee?
Yeah, I mean, especially on the world archery level here too. So this is an impressive target. We got Cousins, a little bit shaky. Rio is pounding it. Broadwater pounding it. We've got Wardwell up there. It looks like he has one out. See, and this is what we were talking about. There was Dave's classic reaction. He was a little bit low. You could see him. He kind of slung his bow up there after the shot had already broke. He knew he was low on the dot when it went off. There's certain people that Rio shoots against where he literally puts everything behind him and he refuses to lose to certain people. And I can tell you right now,
Dave Cousins is one of them?
Yes. And actually, if I was out there, it would be the same. There's almost like a...
And is that because you don't like the guy or because you respect him so much?
No, we've had our differences. We've definitely, or I've done my best anyway to try to move past that. But and that's what I was saying before. As a competitor, when you're sitting there, he's been holding a long time on this shot. He needs to let that down.
I was going to say, I haven't seen him let down.
There it is. It's out. Told you. And it might be out of the Big Ten. That could be 2 points to Dave right there. If Dave puts this in, it could open up this match. there it is.
Well, there's your answer. I mean, Rio obviously hasn't, he's still, whatever is bothering him today or whatever his issue is, he did that little break in between the last whisker, he got through by the
skin
the
of
hair,
his teeth.
the hair of his chin.
Yeah. Now he's in there, but no, it's really hard. And actually, Dave's the same way. It's really hard to be super competitive, and then be a nice guy too. Right when you get off the line, like, I want to compete, but at the same time, it takes an intensity level out there. Yeah, you can forget about using those footrests. They've broke on every person that's sat up here on these.
They stink.
Yeah, they
That's
do.
the only thing that Lancaster didn't have dialed into perfection at this
their,
whole tournament.
Is their director
is
chairs.
the director chairs for the commentators.
Ooh, here we go. We got Jesse and Bordwell shooting. Oh, my.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Oh, that's more beautiful.
That is, dude, those are two good arrows right there.
You know what? I mean, for me, right there is what I love about archery, and that's what I miss, is when you're in that zone and you just are sitting there stroking like that, and you can
I wonder why they went away from that target on us.
Well, we're wanting to see some of the other people here. There's obviously, now we're back to Jesse. You can see Jesse, when he shoots, he has a pretty, he continually, there we go.
Jesse's got a chance to close it.
Yeah, that's 2 points
here.
right there. That's 2 points. A lot of facial pressure on that shooter. Maybe on the next round we could see a better shot of Bordwell. Jesse looks so relaxed. He's got such perfect clearance on his face. So look at that.
That was a good end.
You've got, Jesse has 4 holes on that paper.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yep. So for me, that's what I miss about competing, is when you can do that and then pull that target off and be able to walk behind the line and sign that and give it to some little kid. That's an unbelievable feeling. But at the same time, your focus and intensity when you're at that level has to be so serious, to where sometimes you kind of have to be.
Here's Levi.
Yeah, Levi. Look good. Yeah, that looked nice. So getting some good shot angles. This is really we're kind of talking here about got some people making some comments.
Apparently this Cousins is not the most well-liked archer on the circuit, buddy.
Yep. Yeah. Dave is and Dave was on here yesterday with me, and I roomed with Dave on several US teams because
nobody else wanted to?
Well, and yeah, I was the new guy, so they kind of said you're with Dave. But I trained with Dave because Dave was and still is one of the best field archers in the world. No question. Maybe one of the best of all time. And I always put my personal feelings aside to do what I needed to do to advance myself as a competitor. And Dave was the same. We both had very bad blood when we first started shooting against one another, on the FIDA level. But when we both made the first team together, we actually just kind of mutually saw one another after, and we're like, do you want to put everything aside and train together for 2 weeks before we head off to Croatia? So he said, yeah, let's just do that. And obviously when I was with him for a few days, he started to let his guard down, because that's what I was talking about. There's this defense barrier that you put up as a pro, because you're really trying to stay on edge against all these guys that you're competing against every weekend on this really super competitive level. You almost don't want them to know what your soft side is.
Yeah, you don't want to get too friendly with some of these guys, right?
Yeah.
Because you need to, hate is, I hate to say you need to hate them on the weekend, but you need to.
For 12 arrows, you have to not care about anyone else but yourself, because that's the only thing that's going to get you through that match. So, and he's done a few things in overtime that's made some people upset, but in the end, the world is all about forgiving, right? So You know, I think that's what it's all about. You know, is giving people a chance. Because in the end, hey, we're finally up here.
Yeah, there we
are. I
are.
don't even know where the camera is, really.
I don't know, but there we are.
But hi, everyone. This is me and Christian.
Super Slice.
Yep. There's a little gun show for you.
Oh, baby.
So,
I ain't even going to try and compete with that, buddy.
Come on.
I am not going to try and compete with that.
Unleash the beast.
Looks like I got the brim of my hat down. Nobody can see my head.
That's part of it. You gotta
we got a little bit of a delay on there, too. That's interesting.
Yeah, this one's delayed. That one's live.
If I look at the computer, that's really weird. We're about 10 seconds. Oh, I like that gun show.
Yeah. Sun's out, guns out, I guess. But, yeah, we're at an archery shoot here. No, but this is a great time to talk about what that importance of training means to all levels of archers, not just these guys on the pro level. Because I can tell you, look at how good the Wildes are, right? Imagine D. Wilde, Logan Wilde, and Rio Wilde. They're able to shoot against one another every single time they get together. I mean, how prepared are these guys for serious matches when at one time they're all considered probably one of the top 10 archers in the world, and yet they're able to shoot against one another in their own garage.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that makes a huge difference, being able to put yourself in a tournament position and get used to those feelings, because a lot of what allows you to perform really well at a high level is what I call conditioning. Conditioning yourself to be able to understand what those feelings are, and also understanding how to best manage that when you're there. So
I'm just going to sledgehammer this director's chair after a while.
Yeah, maybe we could do like a wrestling power throw.
Dude, I'll tell you what would be awesome. I just tossed it off the balcony here.
Yep. Let's see.
There's some really good commentary on the. I'm not going to go into all that, but if people might be certainly getting some entertainment value out of these.
For those of you who are on the live feed, there's some extended conversation going on right now about one of the subjects that we're in, and certainly I'm not going to step up and defend anybody, because obviously, Ron, you're right. There's a lot of major issues that have been there, but in the end, I try to come to an archery tournament and still look at all these guys as people who love archery, and you know, I didn't have any problem picking a new roommate once I had the option to do so. So, you know, but I know from a training point of view, at least for me, you know, I wanted to have that, and a lot of the. We're gonna let.
I'm gonna get up and stand for a while, Dudley.
Okay.
This chair's, it's just not doing it for me. I need a little more. Need a little more cord here.
Yeah, we're limited on cord space. We're confined. Okay, well now Rob's done talking, so I'm actually gonna jump back in.
There we go.
To my conversation here, but you know, you look at a lot of the top pros, like on the 3D level, for example. You look back in time. Randy Ulmer, you know, back when he was shooting, you know, him and Dave Stepp were kind of both out of that same area. They kind of had each other to push off of in that same area in Arizona. You look back at like the Caudles, Alan Connor, a lot of those really good shooters that were from Alabama. There were so many of them that were right there in that same town competing against one another all the time. And the same's true in the target world. You know, you look at some of these guys on the line, excluding the Wildes, and you've got guys that continue to train together and really push together. Yeah, we've got Rob's cracking some jokes down there, but I can't hear what he's saying because I've got my earphones on here, but I just heard the crowd laugh. We're getting down. this whole shooting floor is half the size of what it was an hour ago. Really, it's
you got a tough crowd out there too, John. I see these guys; they don't want any fluff, man. No stories, no nothing. We're just in between rounds here. They want get back on the archery, Dudley. Get back, get back.
Yeah.
So let's get back on the archery,
all right,
man.
I'll tell you what. Let's.
Now we got a minute here. People keep asking. They want to know a little bit more about barebow. I know that's not your speciality.
Yep.
The equipment used in barebow. I mean, there's not a whole lot, really. Is there? It looks like those guys have a little springy flipper rest and a tab, and that's about it.
That is it, and a stabilizer. But you are allowed to choose whether you shoot a single spot or a 3-spot. If you do shoot a 3-spot, you do have to put an arrow in each of the spots. So you can't, obviously.
You can't just have a bigger target and shoot.
Well, I mean, they don't want you to pick a 3-spot, and then all of a sudden you shank an arrow and it accidentally hits the other target, and then you say, oh, that's the one I was aiming at. So you actually have to put an arrow in each of the 3 spots. But a lot of people like to just aim at the 1 spot. And honestly, if I were shooting, I think I would do the same. I think I would enjoy a 3-spot personally. I think even if I had an Olympic-style recurve, I would enjoy a 3-spot or a single spot. You'd probably need to bring several arrows in case you start banging them together. But finally getting to see some Olympic-style recurve shooters here. That was a good shot. I was going to say he's collapsing on his front end right there. For those of you out there who he's got a screwdriver, so I don't know what exactly that screwdriver's for, but obviously he knows what it's for. What you'll see with these guys here is when you're shooting a clicker, these Olympic-style recurve shooters have a clicker on their bow, so as they continue to pull, they pull that arrow past a clicker, and then once the tip clears the clicker, it ticks, it comes to the riser, and obviously that's their trigger to release the arrow. And what that teaches you is how to have continual pull. And that's something that really helps these guys that were once a recurve shooter that switch over to compound, which we've actually got like Alex Whitfer is still in right now. He's actually behind to Christopher Perkins. But and here we go. There's a close-up of the clicker. You can see he's stagnant. He probably should have let that one down. You could see he kind of went forward and came back and went forward and came back. If you have continual pull through that shot, it's going to be a lot more consistent. If it's possible, maybe have the floor guy get another image of a clicker, because this is really important. And that's one thing that I really, really learned. There was a time where I actually decided to work on learning Olympic-style recurve shooting, not because I wanted to shoot one necessarily in competition, but because I wanted to understand the differences in technique. And I actually worked with the former gold medalist, Juan Carlos out of Spain, and he worked with me on the recurve, and that's actually that's Crespin right there. He's one of the best shooters from Canada. I mean, he's a 2-time Olympian. Obviously, you can see much better form. And see, it's a completely different shot. A completely different shot than what you saw from the recurve shooters a moment ago.
We got Levi right next to him.
Yeah, Levi's shooting against Deaton. Look at that. Levi was stroking, but look at the recurve shooter. He just pounded probably 310s right there. And obviously this guy next to him, completely different form, bringing his face to the string. It's going to make it hard for him to pull through that clicker, because as he drew back, he brought his face forward to the string. But look at that. You've got 3 11s. We've got 3 11s right there from Crespin shooting X10s. Well, he actually might have two 11s, but
does he not have the right? Oh, is that his last name? Or?
Yep, exactly. So, but when you watch these Olympic shooters, you notice that their timing is so repetitious. It's so consistent. And that was one thing that I really, really learned when I started shooting a recurve, was the ability to actually maintain perfect posture and then pull to the same exact position each and every shot, and then set up. And then once I commit to the shot and commit to that pull, it's a continual pulling motion through that clicker until it fires, and literally having.
What do they put on there? A little bit of powder or something?
No, that's just that's obviously the residue from the target. So we're going to head to a commercial. We'll come back up, and I'll pick up with the same thing.
For over 30 years, Lancaster Archery Supply has practiced the values of integrity, caring, and excellence to archery customers. Discover the largest online selection of bows, arrows, and archery accessories at lancasterarchery.com. Call on our archery texperts for expert advice on all your archery needs. If you want the best service and gear, then visit Lancaster Archery Supply, America's largest archery-only supplier.
Lancaster Archery Supply.
If you like the way this looks, I've got 2 gals here that are responsible for a massive percentage of it. These 2 gals, Laura Reed and Lizzie Humphreys, these 2 gals have done what it would have taken a dozen dudes in half the time. These 2 gals have put up 80 or 90% of our OCU followers. Thank you very much. After this round, we will be changing formats to shoot 6 arrows. You'll shoot 3 top, 3 bottom, all on one vertical plane, one lane. So we will change the clock to 4 minutes after this round is complete. Just a note for next year, my recommendation to you for training for this event would be to shoot lots of 12-arrow matches, both 3-arrow and 6-arrow at a time.
It's funny, sometimes it's a little bit when someone lets their bow down and you say good shot, it's kind of contradictive to itself. But in the end, if you watch these guys, and most of them I've called when they're going to miss, you have to realize when you're breaking down and mentally be able to pull that back in and restart, because every time you get beyond that limit to where you start to run out of oxygen, you've been at full draw 2 or 3 seconds more than you should, or if you pull back and you realize something is just a little bit different in your form, maybe your shoulders collapse, or maybe your elbows more hyperextended this shot, or your grip position feels slightly different. Every single time that happens and you don't recognize it, ultimately you're rolling the dice and you're gambling on whether or not that shot is going to go in the middle. So most of the time, it's when it comes to gambling, the house wins. The house wins. That's exactly true. Here's Jake Kaminsky, Olympic medalist, great ambassador for archery right there. See that finger tab? That thing's been used so many times, it could probably just grab the string himself. Very, very different setup there. Let me talk about this. You look at Jake's grip. See how flat that is? That's very unusual for an Olympic-style shooter. It is a high wrist, but he's sanded it down very flat. He even has a little bit of grip tape right there, which for a lot of shooters, they have a lot more pitch to their grip. Obviously, Jake's doing something a little bit different. He likes that flatter position, so that's actually pretty interesting. The one thing that is consistently different on the Olympic-style people is their grips. They often mold their own grips. They often get putty and kind of change things to where it's exactly the same. And it's interesting to see the people that were once compound shooters that started shooting Olympic style they try to prefer more of like a standard compound style positioning, whereas the guys that started with a recurve style grip and they're used to that high wrist position and a real pitched out thumb and hand, when they switch to a compound, they almost feel uncomfortable on a compound because the grip position's so low and so neutral. So we're going to hopefully get a good shot here of Jake. I want to see his clicker because I want to show you guys watching the difference between an elite level shooter and their timing versus someone else. I'm not sure if Jason's able to be in position. He looks like he is. So let's watch this clicker. I mean, look at the speed here. Consistent movement. It's pulling, and you could see let up a little bit. As soon as that slowed up, and you could see that his arrow went forward a little, he went ahead and canceled that shot. If it's not one fluid motion, like here we go, we're starting. He's going to start his pull. That's actually slow for him. Might let it up. Okay. I called that one too. If it's not a continual fluid motion, he is going to cancel that shot. So got another go around here. He's probably going to really focus on getting that front shoulder out, keeping his head straight. He's going to pull through this probably at a lot different speed. He's slow again. He went ahead and made it happen. So let's see on this third arrow. You can see he's a 10. Let's see on this third arrow if his timing is more like what he normally shoots. Nope. He is slow right now.
He's just not feeling it right now.
Nope. I don't know if he's got a little voodoo in his head knowing that we're talking to him, talking about him, but let's see if we can get that clicker again. I want to see it when he does it normal. This is better, but still not totally him. That might still be a 10. Yep. But if his timing was about 1 or 2 seconds faster, I would be willing to bet that arrow would be in the center. And, you know, what I learned from shooting a recurve as a compound archer is the importance of what you call expansion. And what expansion is, and I don't know if, do you think Jason can get that camera angle up here on me? And see if Jason can get a camera up here on me, and I'll talk. No, I'll talk about expansion while I've got the camera here.
John's going to demonstrate something.
So we'll see if Jason can get a camera up here, and if so, and maybe we'll do it right at the break. So if we can get the camera up here at some point, I want to show all you guys.
We can wait until after this ends.
Yeah, we could.
We got time.
Yeah, it's up to you guys if you want to do it now or if you want to do it during the poll. But
here we go.
Okay,
You're
here we
on,
go.
John.
So I don't know which camera I'm on. Which one? Okay, camera 1. All right,
there.
Sweet. So what you learn about expansion is your actual, your chest cavity, and you learn to shoot broad versus shooting compressed. And with the recurve, what I learned is I can shoot compressed like this, and it's almost impossible to get through that clicker, or I can shoot with expansion where your chest is broad, you're full of air, you've completely expanded, and you learn from that clicker position that when you're shooting collapse, you can't get through that clicker. But when you keep your expansion broad, how much easier it is to get through that clicker. And also you learn with the recurve the importance of your head position, because if you go forward to the string, you come to your anchor and you realize because of that clicker that you've actually come forward an inch. Whereas on a compound bow, you would have just drawn that string a little bit further past your face, and you wouldn't have really understood what that actually compromises in your form. So with learning that recurve, I learned to keep my head completely straight, keeping a perfectly vertical posture, looking towards the target, raising that bow arm up, keeping my expansion big, and drawing that bow back to that position. And then you can pull through that clicker, and when it happens, it's like so perfect, and it happens just right. And if you don't learn that importance with the recurve, then with a compound bow, then what happens is you start to take small things for granted, like taking your head forward to the string or tipping your head too forward to the peep, or even closing that front shoulder and compressing that front shoulder down. And you just don't ever understand what that quarter inch or half inch or eighth of an inch difference in your posture really means. But with that clicker, just like what we just saw with Jake, it means the difference of not being able to shoot an arrow or being able to shoot an arrow with the proper timing. So it's pretty cool. So, well, Kevin just asked, please compare recurve style versus compound. I think I just
touched on that.
Yeah, I think we just walked through that. So hopefully you guys that were just watching enjoyed that little lesson there from the dud. I definitely don't consider myself a recurve guru by any chance, but I will tell you that if you're serious about being a great compound archer, it might even be worth you learning some of the basics of a recurve just so that you can see some of those importances of what a variance in your body posture actually means. And also, I learned a completely different appreciation of how important it is to be perfectly still on my front half. And I learned that with the recurve, you can be moving quite a bit there on your front half, but as long as you're continuing to be dynamic and have good expansion and continuing to pull through that release, a lot more of those arrows are going to go right in the center. So let's see here. We're getting some results, which I think this is good. I like to be able to see what some of these people are doing. And I apologize to some of the people that are listening. I don't watch every single archery tournament as it happens, and one of the downsides to me not being at every single tournament is there are new faces here even for me. You know, I recognize a lot of times I recognize and I watch people shoot, and I know people more by their form. When I look at people, I almost categorize people by their foundation, their structure, and their shooting technique. You know, I'll kind of say, well, that guy's a mini Cousins, or, you know, hey, there's the next Rio or whatever. So I really don't get to learn people's names, nor do I ever remember people's names for the most part anyway. I mean, I always have a nickname for most people.
Well, it's interesting, you know, you talk about that, you know, kids will imitate, you know, the batting stance of their favorite baseball player, or, you know, they want to throw the ball. You were a football guy, you know, throw the ball like Tom Brady or something like that. I mean, we have people out there that are, you know, modeling their shooting form on their favorite shooters. So.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is just we've got an awesome tie right here that is going to be worth its weight in gold to watch.
Between Dave and Rio.
We got Dave and Rio. So this could be pretty dang cool. I love watching these head-to-head matches as they break down. So Alex Whitfer is gone. He lost to Chris Perkins. Chris is a phenomenal shooter, and he may be my pick to win. You know, I know some people might not know why I'm saying that, but obviously I know that this kid is very focused and an awesome shooter. So, yeah, Cousins versus Rio. They're making the whole floor bring their attention to this. So
no pressure.
No pressure. I'm curious what kind of superpowers each of these guys have. I think if Rio loses, he's going to turn around and cut Dave in half with like laser beams out his eyes, and then Dave will probably be able to spit fire. So, yep, for those of you who just saw, Levi has left the building. My man Deaton, maybe I gave him some good luck talking to him there.
He pulled it out in the last end.
He did.
By a point.
Yep. Yep. And see, that's the one thing I really miss is being able to see those last shots, because I can kind of tell you exactly what happens for those shots to break down.
So it looks like we got a little bit of, well, we're going to have this shoot off, and then there's going to be a little bit change in the format here.
Yeah. So after the shoot offs, you know, the time will be changing to 4 minutes, and we're going to be moving to 6 arrows now that we've kind of really got down to the nitty-gritty here. We're going to have 6 arrows instead of the 12, which makes it a little bit difficult for us trying to talk about some of these important subjects. There's Levi and his little boy. Pretty cool. Here we go. We got
So after this shoot-off, what are we going to be down to in this division? How many shooters are going to be left?
Should be at 8, I would think. Yeah, should really get down there. So Tim Gillingham's gone to Osterlink. I worked with Osterlink years ago, actually. I worked with him as a coach. Jesse really got it together. Look at Jesse with a 132, just smoking it. He's totally got his game going. That, to be honest, that's what's so dangerous about Jesse Broadwater is he's like this unbelievable ball of momentum. It's like once he gets rolling and that thing starts building, it's like a snowball going down the hill. It just gets extremely dangerous the closer and closer it gets to the final round. So we got a pretty darn good look here at the Cuz. And obviously he's getting a little frustrated that people aren't getting their targets changed. He's like I told all you guys at home about little things that you see different between the pros. Look how much Dave is trying to settle himself by just talking to Rio. And Rio
he doesn't want nothing to do with it.
Rio is
trying
is
to
playing.
basically has his back turned to him.
Yep, he's playing his game of, you know, blah 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 blah. I'm not hearing you. I'm. This is a very, very important arrow for Hoyt. It's an important arrow for Cuz. This is a great shoot off. I mean, to be honest, people that are here in the crowd, the tournament is worth staying here to watch these finals just for this right here. I mean, this is awesome. It's pretty cool seeing these guys too. You know, you look at Rio, completely different form than Dave, way different. You know, you see Rio shooting veins, Dave shooting feathers. You know, that's Dave shoots tons of back weight. Rio shoots tons of front weight. Two completely different setups. Dave made a good shot. That is textbook Dave Cousins right there. Rio's holding too long. That's not good. Nailed it.
He got it in there.
Yep. He must have liked.
Rio seems to like to wait until his opponent lets his arrow go to shoot.
Well, Dave likes to purposely slam an arrow in there before his opponent shoots because Dave doesn't want to think about what the opponent is doing. So the benefit to Rio and having all that weight on the front is right now in this position, he's able to hold a lot longer and maintain that steadiness. But obviously he has to have a posture.
Ooh.
That could be it. It's over. Done. That's it. Rio did not fall victim to the talky talk. And Rio's going to give Logan a high five. Yep, see the little wink like, yeah. I mean, they tried their best to shake hands, but obviously you can tell by the brother right there, he's really pumped for this. And, obviously it's good. I really want to see Rio and Perkins, or Perkins and Broadwater, or Rio and Broadwater. I mean, that's going to be an awesome match.